We often move through the world under the impression that we are the sole authors of our choices. However, psychological research suggests our behavior is steered by data we no longer remember, specific events wiped from our conscious reach before we learn to speak. This influence surfaces in the cycles that leave us feeling stuck. It's why we might reach for food we promised to avoid, find ourselves drawn to partners who repeat our past heartbreaks, or automatically suppress our own needs the moment someone else enters the room. We tend to view these recurring struggles as evidence of a weak will or a lack of discipline. We treat these patterns as character flaws that can be solved by trying harder or being more resilient. A more accurate diagnosis is that these are survival strategies. They are automated responses developed decades ago to navigate a world that, at the time, felt precarious. Real change remains impossible until we identify the origin of these behaviors. Without understanding the original context for our actions, our adult intentions will continue to be sidelined by our earliest childhood adaptations. This specific biological timeline for this development is incredibly narrow, occurring almost entirely between birth and the age of 5. During this window, the human brain operates in a theta state. Think of this as an open, unencrypted recording mode. At this age, we lack the logical filters necessary to evaluate the information coming at us, meaning we absorb our environment without any ability to question it. This recording includes the subtle, often unspoken dynamics of the household. An infant's brain catalogs parental tension, the weight of unexpressed grief, and the shifts in attention that occur when the family's focus moves elsewhere, such as toward a sibling in a hospital bed. Because a child lacks the capacity for logic, they cannot tell themselves that their parents are simply stressed or tired. Instead, the nervous system internalizes these fluctuations as threats to their survival and their primary access to love. This process creates a blueprint for reality that is etched into our biology before we have the vocabulary to describe it. We spend our adulthood acting out a play that was written before we could even talk. This is the logic behind the diagnostic methods used by high-performance coaches like Tony Robbins. To help people break through patterns that have persisted for decades, he bypasses surface-level complaints and looks for the origin point. He often uses a single question to trigger a realization. Who did you have to be to receive love? This forces a person to look at the specific role they adopted to maintain their connection to their caregivers. We can see the biological necessity of this role in the still face experiment. It provides a stark look at why a child is forced to invent a personality just to stay emotionally safe. The experiment starts with a mother and infant in a state of high connection. They mirror each other's expressions in a joyful loop, confirming to the infant that they are truly seen and valued. Suddenly, the mother stops. She turns away and returns with a completely blank stare. No emotion, no mirroring, and no response to the child's presence. The infant's reaction is immediate and visceral. They engage in protest behaviors, pointing, babbling, and contorting their body in a desperate attempt to regain connection. The lack of mirroring is experienced as physical discomfort. We carry these protest behaviors into our adult lives. Roles like the fixer, who tries to solve every problem to stay valuable, or the rebel, who fights for attention, are simply more complex versions of that infant reaching out to a blank face. It is a sobering realization that your most defining personality traits may actually be a mask, a defense mechanism constructed 20 years ago to bridge the emotional gaps in your childhood home. Healing begins with a recognition that you are the observer, not the role you've been playing. The person who feels the need to please everyone is a strategy you learned, not the core of your identity. Stepping out of this role is difficult because your biology views the change as a threat. To heal, you often have to lean into behaviors that your childhood mind labeled as dangerous or bad. If you survived by being the good, quiet child, then setting a boundary as an adult will trigger internal alerts. You will feel a sense of guilt or selfishness, even when you are simply taking care of yourself. This tension isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It is the biological resistance that occurs when you begin to move against a pattern that has been in place since infancy. The first step in repatterning is gathering the missing data. Map out exactly what was happening in your household between ages 0 and 5. Focus on the energy of the home and the challenges your parents were facing at that time. Next, identify the mask. Pinpoint the specific personality you had to adopt, whether it was the caregiver, the high achiever, or having no needs at all. The final phase of the still face experiment offers the solution. When the mother returns and mirrors the baby again, the baby's nervous system instantly relaxes. You can provide this for yourself through meditation, visualizing that younger version of you and giving them the steady, calm presence they were missing. Remember that before the world taught you who you needed to be to survive, you were exactly like the infant at the start of the experiment. You possessed an inherent value that didn't require a role to justify it. You were not the author of your early years, but you are the one holding the pen now. If you found this perspective helpful, subscribe for more deep dives into the mechanics of change and share this with someone starting their own journey.